So thanks for giving me the opportunity to tell you a little more about what we're doing here at Urthecast and how the content that we generate from our cameras on the space station is already impacting lives here on Earth. What we are doing is building, launching, and operating the world's first streaming video platform of Earth from space. And basically what that means is that we have 2 cameras on the International Space Station and 2 other satellites that we bought this summer for about $74 million. And we're also developing plans to build out our own constellation, which will be the world's first integrated radar and optical constellation. You can see through clouds at night, kind of underground. I'll come back to that in a couple minutes. The vision of Urthecast is actually to democratize Earth observation imagery and to take a view of Earth from space that up until now has only been available to governments, astronauts, and actually large corporations, and see if we can find a way to take that imagery and stream it out online for the rest of us. We started the company about 5 years ago in my basement, and through a variety of good introductions and kind of circumstances, we were able to structure an agreement with the Russian Space Agency whereby we gave them 2 cameras. They did the launch of the International Space Station, the installation, the power, the downlink, and then we split the data. They took the imagery of Russia, and they give it to the ministries of forestry, farming, mapping, Coast Guard kind of stuff, which is what you do with pictures of Earth from space. And we took the data of the rest of the world, and we do 2 things with it. One is we sell it to people who want pictures of Earth from space, on one hand, and then on the other hand, we take the imagery, we wrap it up in an API, and we're streaming it out online, and we'll open it up to media, entertainment, consumers, and frankly, for the rest of us. Our cameras cost about $35 million. If we had to pay for what we're getting through the launch and the partnership and whatever else, it would have been at least $150 million. Space is incredibly expensive. So right now we have 4 cameras in space. One is a low-resolution camera, which means that we can see anything that's about 20 meters big. Fields, farms, rivers, forests, agriculture is the main use case for that. We have a medium-resolution camera, which allows us to see anything that's 5 meters big. Buildings, roads, rooftops, buses, ships, that type of thing. And then we have a high-resolution camera that can see anything that's 1 meter big. And then we have a high-resolution video camera that allows us to track cars and groups of people and anything that's 1 meter big for about 60 seconds. So golf carts, kind of white on green, you can see that kind of stuff. No faces, no license plates. This isn't the spy stuff. You know, and this is imagery that's basically used for commercial purposes that we have. And what I want to do today was walk through a little of our content, show some examples, show examples of when you take pictures from different angles, from different cameras of the same thing, and you marry these 2 data sets together, some of the emotions that you can pull out of that. This is a video that we took this summer from our camera mounted on the International Space Station of Mecca, Kaaba, I'm here in Saudi Arabia. And you can see as the space station flies over, you see the buildings from the front, from the top, from the back, and it looks like the buildings are swaying, but that's basically just a change of perspective. It's called the parallax effect. And if you look at the middle there, there's a little white circle there, which is where Muslims go for the pilgrimage around, and it's a little tough to see here, but you can actually see people walking around there. And then here's a picture that we took a couple weeks later from one of our still cameras of the same area. And this is after they had the crane that fell over. So if you look at about the 2 o'clock position, you can see the crane. Killed about 110 people, injured a few hundred others. This is when you take pictures of the same thing at different times, you can see how things have changed. It's incredibly evocative. Here's another video that we actually just released for the first time here at the Web Summit. And this is of Fukushima, taken about 10 days ago. And this is at normal speed. If you speed it up, you can see cars move, you can see the waves come in, you can see the buildings operate a little bit, kind of change back and forth. And then, of course, we can add some context to it. So a simple 35-second video played on a bit of a loop. The amount of information in there is incredibly evocative, and there's just all kinds of information in there when you're looking at things from different angles and we're looking at the same point in time. We've been working with groups like nonprofit groups, the UN, for about the last couple years, and about 6 weeks ago, they called up and they said, we've been hearing rumors that ISIS has destroyed the Temple of Bel in Palmyra. There's no outside verification, it's just kind of rumors basically that are coming in from the ground. would you be able to take a picture of it? And so we looked at our satellites and kind of found the schedules and so forth. It turns out that we would have a satellite going over Syria the next day. And we said, I think we can take one the next day. And this is the picture that we took right here. So this was the first picture from an outside country and outside anyone of the temple in Palmyra. ISIS, of course, just bombed this temple. We took the picture, we downlinked it, we processed it, and we delivered it to the UN in about 3 hours. And this was the image, this exact image that they used to verify that ISIS had bombed that temple. It was about 2,000 years old. Up until then, it had been in somewhat pristine condition, all things considered, and this was on BBC and CNN and so forth. On the other end of the spectrum, here's a picture that we took of Beijing in early September. And if you recall, China had organized this massive military parade. It's right outside Tiananmen Square. If you look at that orange block on the left-hand side, that's Tiananmen Square, and they'd closed all the factories for a couple of days because they wanted to clear the air. They closed cars, parks, things like that. People couldn't go outside. It turns out that one of our satellites was over Beijing just as the parade was about to start. So if you look at that bottom road on the left-hand side, it's a little hard to see here on the screen, but you can see the parade about to start marching past Tiananmen Square. And there's a bunch of red things on the left-hand side at the bottom there, so you can see people about to goose step past the parade. You can see tanks, missile launchers, drones, in fact. We took this image, we gave it to a bunch of news, of course. This wasn't the only picture of it, but just in terms of some of the kind of stuff you can see, the beautiful colors worked out spectacular, and in fact, it was a crystal clear day, so it worked out great. We tend to view our market as a bit of a pyramid, and at the top of the pyramid, it's a triangle. At the top of the pyramid, you've got governments, governments who've been used to buying this kind of imagery, ministries of forestry, Coast Guard, Border Patrol, agriculture. This is what you do with pictures of Earth from space. In the middle section, you have media, entertainment, businesses, analytics, people trying to take all this data and more or less predict the future. And then on the bottom end of the pyramid, you have consumers. It's the long tail. And on that note, we signed an agreement with Pepsi this summer. Turns out they're relaunching the Pepsi Challenge. And it's not, can you tell the difference between Coke and Pepsi anymore? It's we challenge you to do something different, go above and beyond, change the status quo, more of a lifestyle brand. And so they came to us and said, can you be the technology partner to the Pepsi Challenge? So we went back and forth, and what they did was they organized a bunch of outdoor events. So they get 1,000 people together in India, in the Middle East, in the US, and they're outside, and they're holding up banners, and they're making the Pepsi logo and kind of flipping things around like that. It got imaged from space. They took all that content, they're wrapping it up into a short film that's going to be coming out here over the next couple weeks. Usher's playing the music. There's a bunch of other Hollywood types that are kind of in it. It's about a 14-minute short. And essentially, they're using our imagery to save the world through this film right here. It's a little presumptuous, of course, but it's kind of fun. I also wanted to talk through some of the other imagery that we have. This is a picture of Vancouver. And as you speed it up, you can see planes land in the harbor. You can see boats move. Because you're looking at buildings from different sides, you can see how tall the skyscrapers are. You can count the ships in the port. You can see what type of production is going to be coming out of the port. Imagery like that. Here's a picture that we took of Paris this summer in July. What was interesting about this picture here, this video here, it's about a 45-second. It's on a bit of a loop. There was 15,000 moving vehicles in it. And so we have algorithms that go into it, and they find all the moving pieces in a video. And we can track distance, we can track speed, we can track direction, we can pull them out, we can put them back in. There's lots of things that we can do from a content standpoint when we have this type of imagery. This is our medium resolution camera. It's pointing directly down. It can see anything that's 5 meters big. It's fixed at nadir. And so we call this the superhero effect, which is basically what you'd see if you're flying over Earth. So it's beautiful. You can see the bottom of the ocean. You can see fields, farms, deserts. It looks like art. In fact, it is art. And so this type of imagery is now scrolling across our website. It's incredibly provocative. It looks gorgeous. Deserts and things like that. We can add content to it to give it a little bit of context to what we're looking at. The other thing that we signed this summer was an agreement with NASA. They have 2 cameras on the International Space Station called HDEV, High Definition Earth Viewing cameras. They're pointed directly out, kind of at the limb of Earth. And so you can see the horizon, you can see the atmosphere, you can see the northern lights. This is essentially what astronauts see as they look out from the International Space Station. Space station goes around Earth about 16 times a day. It's traveling at about 25,000 kilometers an hour. Every 45 minutes you see a sunrise, 45 minutes later you see a sunset as it whips around Earth at about 16 times a day, every 90 minutes and so forth. When you talk to astronauts, and I've talked to a dozen of them or so, they all say that going to space changes them. They get up there, they see how beautiful Earth is, there's no countries, there's no borders, everybody's kind of living on the same planet. They all come back with a greater sense of planet stewardship than they had when up there, particularly people who have been up there twice. They go up there once, they come back, and then 3 or 4 years later they go back up, and they all come back with a greater sense of, we're all living on the same planet. And so one of the core philosophies of Urthecast is to take a little bit of the view that astronauts have and see if we can stream it out. And at the end of the day, we're basically a content company. We announced this summer that we're going to be building out the world's first integrated optical and radar constellation. 16 satellites all whipping around Earth. These satellites travel in pairs, so radar and then an optical satellite. About a minute behind, you can send information back and forth, you can queue them up. There's all kinds of cool technology that you can do. You can see through clouds, and you end up with terabytes of data every single day that comes down, and we store it on Amazon, and then basically we need to find ways to display it. And so what our team down in San Francisco is doing is building out a web platform built on our API. And the idea behind it is that you can log in, you can enter your address, you can see a picture of your house taken 2 days, 2 weeks, 8 weeks, 16 weeks, kind of scroll back and forth in time, see how things have changed. And then at the same time, because we know where the satellites are, you can find out when it's going to be above you next. It'll be above you in 5 hours and 57, 56, 55 minutes. You can organize events around when you'll be imaged from space. So your corporate event, your wedding, all your buddies in white shirts on a green field spelling I love you, will you marry me? You go back inside, it gets imaged from space, and a few hours later it's streaming over the web. You can download it, you can remix it, you can edit it, you can do whatever you want with it. And we take that API, and then we also open it up to other developers. And so right now we have a few hundred developers who are using our API in a closed beta right now. And basically what these companies are trying to do is they're trying to predict the future. So they take our data set, they take other data sets. We have one who has mapped every factory in China, and they count the cars in the parking lots. They take pictures of the trains leaving the factories, and the longer the train, perhaps the more economic production. They'll take pictures of the rivers behind the factories, and we can tell kind of water health, river health. We can tell the level of pollution in the water behind the factories. They take other information, they overlay social data, Facebook tweets, things like that. If people are checking in at 4 a.m., they're probably working 24/7. They take all that data, they mash it together, and they use it to predict the GDP of China. And it's incredibly accurate. People take pictures of the coffee farms in South America. If the coffee farms are doing well, the price of coffee is probably going to go down because there's lots of supply. If they're not doing well, the price of coffee is probably going to go up. And so hedge funds, of course, insurance companies, this is the main customer here. Stories, we communicate through stories, and pictures can either be context behind the story, or in some cases they can be the actual story themselves. And so we take all this imagery, we try to find a way to wrap it up. We're in discussion with most of the major news agencies around the world who are looking for stories either to back up their other stories, our imagery to back up their other stories, or looking for our imagery because they want to wrap their own stories around it. People view space different ways. Some people look at space as a way to get above and beyond. So there's people have been living on the International Space Station for about the last 15 years. And so some people view space as a way to get back to the moon. If we can live on the space station for 15 years, we can get back to the moon. If we can get to the moon, we can get to Mars. We can go to Mars, we can go someplace else. We tend to view space as a way to get up there and then look back at Earth and hopefully have some level of impact on what people are doing here at Earth by giving a different vantage point to everyone else. Thank you very much.